Hi, hello and welcome all to DSC and SSE. Today, as we all know, we are here for a very special session by our ex-DSC lead Anubhav Singh on how to get your Google Summer of Code proposal selected. I hope most of you here are already aware about Google Summer of Code. Google Summer of Code is an annual programming event that encourages student developers across the world to contribute to open source development. It's organized by Google, and every year about thousands of students participated in it. However, with so much enthusiasm around it, the competition level becomes tough, and it's really important to make a good proposal in order to increase your chances of being selected. So we have Anubhav Singh with us. He is an Intel software innovator, data camp instructor, ex-DSC and SSC lead. He has also authored a books. In fact, he has authored multiple books. He has been a GSoC Google Summer of Code participant for year 2019, and he is also a Venkat Panchpakishan Memorial Scholar for the year 2019. So let's invite him.
Thanks a lot, Rishijas, for inviting me here, and it's great to see all of you here. Uh, Good audience, I guess. So I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions. You are interested in the Google Summer of Code, and okay. So is there an echo from my side? Quickly give me a yes or no. Okay, so yeah, no, all is fine. Good. So yeah, let's start off with the presentation. I don't want to take much time. Can you please bring up the presentation, please? Uh, yep, that is good. You can keep me on the screen if you want. I'm fine with that. Thanks. So preparing for GSoC and your introduction to Winter of Code, right? So even though the event title looks a bit different, we will stick around what the event title is promising you, and we will also stick around the formal title which I have given to my slides, right? So a quick introduction, which was already done by Rishida. So I'll very quickly skip over this. Not much to know. There are a few organizations I'm associated with. Coming to why the topic, right? And the answer is very simple. Just to make your college life interesting, because while you are at college, there are a lot of things you might learn from textbooks. There are a lot of things other people might teach you. You might learn things by doing projects yourselves. But there are a few things which open source will teach you, right? And let's just quickly answer what is open source, because this entire session is going to be about open source. So it's a very good thing that you might understand it well. You do not have any misconceptions around it. And in a very broad sense, it is publicly visible source code and permissive license on projects, right? So whenever there's a software which has its source code publicly visible, or its licenses which are permissive in nature, as in like don't just take it literally, right? There's something called permissive software license, which is a different thing. What I mean by permissive license here is basically licenses which allow you to download that code, change it, modify it any manner you want, probably use it for commercial purposes. So all of this is allowed by open source licenses, most famous the MIT, GPL, or any other. Let's not go into that. Let's come to the power of open source, right? So why open source is powerful? Because it allows a range of inspection and criticism on the code which you write. Whatever you have put out there, people are seeing it. People of sorry, people of all calibers of software development and all ranges of time in the industry, they are looking at your code and they will be inspecting it. They will be criticizing it. Wherever you have got it wrong, they will be telling you that, hey, this is wrong. You need to correct it, right? And then there are no employment formalities in open source. So if you have an open source project, you want some people to work together on it. There are no formalities as such, forming a company and getting them on a payroll. All this bullshit is done away with. People are just there to contribute. That's it. And contributions need not always be code, right? In open source, once you think about open source, it does not mean that you just have to, get a laptop, start bashing the keyboard. It does not mean that. It could also be in the form of finding out errors in a software, suggesting that this is what a better feature can be implemented into the software, or maybe there is so and so feature, but maybe if you do it this way, then it's going to be better, right? So all these things are contributions. You might just design the logo for a project, you might just design probably a back button for a web browser, and that is contribution, right? So contribution can be almost in any format. Like I remember in GSoC, I have come across participants who have mainly focused on design, right? They designed things for the project which they were working on, probably design assets as in images, icons, logos, or maybe just front end designing, probably changing the CSS of the website and juggling up stuff in the website. So all these things are always possible. So it does not always mean that open source does not always mean you need to start coding. But then yes, coding is the major part, and that's why we are here today. I'll in the future slides I'll be talking mostly about coding part. And open source is CSR towards developers. A lot of companies take it as CSR. A lot of startups, in fact, today are taking open source as CSR. So they create projects which are in line with what they do, and they put it out there for the public to see. And at the same time, when the wide audience, when the public actually starts contributing to that project grows, and it in a way benefits the organization which has put it out, right? So if you think of Google, so if Google created the Google file system initially, and they put it out as the Hadoop system, right? So they gave it to Apache, and then Apache maintained it, Apache took it forward. If today Google wants, Google can just use that software and take benefit of all the new advancements which have been done by the Apache Foundation in an open source manner, right? So there's always a benefit for every company when they put out a open source project which is in line with what business they do, right? So anyway, why should you be a part of this open source culture? What is there in it for you, like as a student? Like, because I'm guessing most of you here are students, so I'm guessing that you might be asking this: why do you want to go into open source? There's also competitive programming, which will almost always get you a good job, and then there's also other design stuff and things which you might just do for freelancing and be happy with it, make a lot of money. And open source is actually questionable, that there's something which you're going to contribute to, but it's not going to give you back any money, it's not going to give you any employment. Then why open source, right? Because it offers you a world of growth beyond the textbook, right? The textbooks in your college, the stuff that you learn in your college, it is never going to teach you the things which you might face in a high intensity production environment. So that is something which you can learn while being at college by participating into open source. Like if your college is over, you go into a company and stuff, then obviously you will learn things there. They will probably put you on a 6-month training period or a 3-month training period, whatever it may be. And they will teach you stuff which actually you could have learned while at college by participating in open source organizations and projects, right? So it's as simple as that. If you want an edge over your peers while at college, then open source is definitely the way to be, right? Because almost everyone at your college would be doing competitive programming, would be doing, someone might be doing freelancing, and there will be only a few people who will actually be contributing to open source very strongly. And the people who are doing that, they will always have an edge over the others because they know how real software actually works. They have actual code to show people that this is how I code. These are the things which I can do. These are the things which I can do for your company, right? So there are things like that. And then obviously open source has a lot of value in the formal company culture as well. Like if you look at this, the largest acquisitions which have been done in the recent past in open source, look at the value that they have got, right? 34 billion. That's mind-boggling, and it's an open source organization, right? Red Hat began as an open source organization. It has a lot of open source projects, and then you look at GitHub. Microsoft acquired it. So it's not like if you build something which is open source, it's always going to be without the money. There's actually a lot of money involved in open source if you know how to make it, right? And these people, they knew. If you look at these projects, Elastic and MongoDB, they started offering services of the open source products which they had, and look at how good they are doing today. And companies love open source on their profiles. So if you add things, when a company says that these are the things which we do as open source, if you look at how things have changed with Microsoft recently, like in the last, say, 4 to 5 years, right? So there was a time like around 4 to 5 years back when Microsoft did not openly participate much in open source, but then they came out with the VS Code editor. Initially all Microsoft products used to be paid. You always had to pay for licenses for all of them. Then they came out with VS Code editor, and then they came out with the VS Code editor entirely free, a lot of extensions, and probably open source as well. And I don't remember that. Yeah. So they also acquired GitHub, and acquiring GitHub was obviously a big thing, because that's a very good show of how they are supporting open source today. Like if you think about who is supporting the most number of projects today in open source, obviously Microsoft, right? So why did they do that? Because it gives them the benefit of the developer sentiment, right? So developers all over the world, they will start noticing that yes, there is this company which does something good for everyone, right? They build some awesome products, and they put it out for everyone to use, modify, and repackage into something else. So it actually gives a whole lot of edge to these companies in terms of emotional sentiment that developers have towards those companies. And then coming to some open source projects in India, very quick overview. Calibre is probably one of the most famous open source projects in India. And I'm very sure that some of you must have used it. If you're into reading books, reading ebooks on your laptop, then you must have used Calibre at some time. And then there's ERP Next, which is used by some amazing companies. Like if you look at this, Reliance, Jirodha, right? So you might know these two companies, and you have to think about how big a project they have made to be used by Reliance. Anyway, coming to how you can jump the open source bandwagon. Basically, this is where we start talking about how you can contribute to open source and how you should be planning towards your GSoC entry. So this is simple, right? This is how you jump onto the open source bandwagon. You create stuff, you share it with everyone, and over time you try to improve it. That's it, right? Very simple. Create, share, and improve. It might also be that you did not create something entirely in the first step itself. You just went ahead and improved someone else's project. Even that is counted, right? As long as you're sharing it, that's cool. So is there a quick start available for anyone who is interested in contributing to open source and just wants a very quick start into the entire world of open source? And the answer is yes, it is there, and they are available in the form of some opportunities for students. The most famous, Google Summer of Code, about which I'll be talking today. My main focus will be GSoC. And besides, there is the MLH Fellowship, and I think the last session that DSC NSCC had in collaboration with DSC VIT, we had an MLH Fellow talking about open source, right? And then there are some other programs as well. You might take a look at it by visiting this link. If you want, you can screenshot it or something, probably write it somewhere, or else maybe the good folks at DSC NSCC will share it in the chat section, this link. Anyway, so how do you begin your day zero of open source, right? The things which you need to keep in mind, and the things which you might feel on the very first day when you start trying to jump into open source. So the first thing which you might be feeling, right? The code base is so large. How do I get started with it, right? There's a lot of code. What do I do in this? And then there's I don't understand what they're talking about. When you go to the forums of that software, you see people discussing like one line of code, you see people discussing one function, and you're like, what the hell are they talking about, right? Where is this thing in the entire code base? So that might happen as well. And then you have, what if my code is too poor, like oh my god, they have written so beautiful code, and if I contribute something to it, it might turn out bad. What will I do then, right? So people will laugh at me. Yeah, there's also this feeling that if you make some contribution and it does not look that grand, then the other people will judge you and probably laugh at you at your skills. So yeah, these are some feelings which you might have when you are starting your day zero in open source. But let me be honest, people who are in open source for some time, who understand what it is, they all know that you are just helping, right? You are just trying to help. You are just trying to take that project forward. And I can assure you that no one is going to judge you or laugh at you. They will understand that you are starting with open source, and there are a few pitfalls which all of us fall into, right? So don't worry about getting judged or getting laughed at. If you are into open source, and if there are people who understand open source, then they know that you are helping, right? Anyway, let's see. This is what you need to do, right? When you see a project in open source, like there's a open repository, and you saw it, then what is the first thing that you need to do before you start making contributions to it, right? You need to understand what they need. You need to understand very clearly what they need, like a big bold they, right? Because it's not about what you need, right? For example, if I see the repository of VLC media player, right? I'm sure all of you know it's a popular media player. So if I see the repository of VLC media player, and I'm like, in VLC they should have this Netflix style browsing section, right? So that is something which I need, but that is not something which VLC needs. VLC is perfect the way it is. VLC's main motto is to support as many type of files that it can, right? That is their first motto, that they should be able to support a huge variety of files, and they should be able to run on almost all devices, and they should be, the software should be working fast and without glitches. That is what they need. And I'm like, it should have a Netflix like browsing section. That is what I need, and it's not matching, right? So if I go into VLC organization and I say that, hey, I want to create a Netflix like browsing section for your software, they'll be like, please go away, right? So you don't want that to happen, right, in your GSoC journey. So be very sure about understanding what the project needs, right? And these are the few things which you can do to understand it. Go ahead and check the pending issues in that repository. Whenever you go to a GitHub repository, you will see that issues tab is there, right? Click on that issues tab and see what issues are pending, and that will in general give you a guide of what they might be looking for, right? Because issues are mostly the problems that they have in their software, and definitely they want them solved, right? And then there might be some pending pull requests or merge requests in case of GitLab or any other software which uses that terminology. So go ahead and look into those pull requests. A lot of times the maintainers do not have time to review the pull requests. So you can go ahead and check out that pull request and test it out, provide your review, look at the code, look at the changes which someone is trying to introduce into the software, and give your opinion there, right? Try to find out the bugs in the software, download it, install it on your system, and see if it has any bugs which you think should be fixed. There might be some features missing which you believe that it might be good to have that feature. It might enhance that software. Like if you ask me about VLC, then I would probably say that it should also allow me to browse through photos kept in a folder. That might be a useful feature for VLC, because that's just another kind of media, right? So try to suggest features to that software. And finally, check out the project forums for commonly faced problems, right? So a lot of users, when they face problems in a software, they go ahead and put it on the forum of that particular software. So go ahead and check out the problems which people are facing a lot, right? They are repeatedly facing that problem, and you can understand that, yeah, this is one problem in this software which probably needs to be solved, right? So this is another way to understand what that software, that repository needs. And once you have understood the need, like what that project needs, the next thing we should do is to build a solution proposal, right? And it's not a like a written document yet. I'm not talking about the GSoC specifically. I'm talking about the general contributions that you make to open source. So a solution proposal will just be written down as probably a comment to the issue, or maybe if you find the problem on a forum, then you can create an issue, feature request, and just comment below it that this is what I am planning to do, right? So in that plan, this is what you're going to do first. Can you solve that problem? Like whatever problem you identified, whatever bug you found, whatever issue you saw, can you solve it, right? If you can, then well and good. We'll proceed with the next. And if not you, then who can? Just try to mention that person that, hey, I think this person can solve this problem. You can probably assign it to him, and then he will take his journey forward. If you can, then how are you going to solve it, right? What is your exact plan of how you're going to solve that problem? If there's say a problem in which in a to-do application the to-dos are not appearing, then how are you going to solve it? Like, are you going to install another to-do application? That is not a solution. You might say that I'm going to check the DB connection first, and then I'll check if the code is rendering the things properly. So all these might be possible steps to how you will solve that problem, and you need to mention them on the comments in the issue, whoever has raised it. And if there is no issue raised as such, raise that issue and mention it in the issue itself, that this is how you think it should be solved. And you also need to mention why your approach is best, right? There might be alternate ways to solve a problem, and you need to back your approach with some logic, right? Say for example, someone is saying that a particular software is crashing because of some dependency on my software, right? On my system, right? So they are probably on some system which has old packages, and the dependency required is a new one, and their software is not working. So they might ask you, what should I do? Then will you ask them to upgrade their local packages, or are you going to downgrade the software's requirement, right? So these are two alternate solutions. So which one are you going to take, and why, right? So you will have to back your probable solution with proper reason, that this is why I think this is good to do. And then communicate your solution to the maintainers. You can probably put it on the IRC, if they have any IRC channel, if they have Slack, if they have Discord. You need to put it down there. You need to talk to the maintainers that this is what I want to do. If they do not have any such channels, or if they are not comfortable with such channels, then you can just comment on the GitHub issue, and they will definitely look into it. Chalk out all the implementation requirements. So when you propose a solution, make sure that whatever major changes or requirements you're going to have while implementing it, you just go ahead and put it out there on the solution itself, like with the proposal, so that they understand that if they want to accept your solution, then these are the requirements that they will have to provide for, right? And finally, don't fit a square peg in a round hole. That's something I have seen a lot of proposals trying to do. The last year we had Winter of Code, there were a number of proposals, and many of them tried doing that, right? Think of something like this, that there's a basic application which is running just plain HTML, CSS, JavaScript, everything vanilla, right? And then someone says that to solve this one issue, I will introduce Python into it. Like, why? Come on, it can be done with the plain HTML as well, right? So don't try to do that, right? Don't try to do something like this, that someone was working on the image that you see on the left, and you are like, hey, I'm going to solve this, and this is how it's going to look at the end, and this is not how we want it solved, right? So make sure that you're not force fitting your solution into the issue. Again, finally, coding with the guidelines, right? all the repositories, almost all repositories, will have some coding guidelines, and they may or may not have enforced it with the editor itself, right? The linter. So you need to follow the guidelines, whatever they are saying. Otherwise, your code will turn out to be something out of the world for that project, right? And it won't look good. No one wants a road like this. So make sure that whatever guidelines are provided to you, you're following it all the time, and you don't just randomly start putting in. Like, it might happen that the entire project is using camel case, and you come in and start writing things in that underscore notation, right? So that will be a big problem. No one wants you to do that. They will keep on asking you change it to camel case, and if you are adamant on not using camel case, then they might just reject your PR, right? So you will be a bad contributor. Then don't do this. And finally, be humble and patient, because it might happen that whatever contribution that you have made to the project, the maintainers are probably not available at that time to look into it, or maybe they found a lot of issues with your code, and they gave you a very long review, and you have to work on it, probably 3-4 iterations, and you are very frustrated working on the same issue for like a month. So you have to be patient in those times, and you have to be humble at all times, right? Because everyone is looking at that code. Literally everyone is looking at that code, and everyone has their opinions, everyone has their experiences. Then if they suggest something to you, it will be based on their experience. It might be correct, it might be wrong, but you have to be humble, right? If it's a wrong suggestion according to you, you have to be good in saying that, hey, I think this is wrong because so and so, right? Give them a good reason, instead of just saying don't suggest bullshit. You just have to tell them that, hey, I think this thing is better, or maybe what you're saying is wrong because I have read this, right? So you have to be very humble in open source, because all type of people will come in. They might not understand what form of language you are using. uh, they might not understand the sarcasm or humor that you are trying to use. They might not be in the state of mind to take sarcasm or humor. So make sure that you are humble and patient at all times while you are, contributing to an open source organization. And yep, very simple quote that be as cool as Dhoni. So yeah, with all these guidelines set in, and with all the preliminary things that I have already told you, let's move on to the main point why you are all here. And this is the golden slide, yes. Yep. So how to work towards your GSoC proposal. Literally golden slide, yes. Anyway, so be a good open source Samaritan. Simple as that. The things which I told you just now, all the 3-4 points, that is what you need to do, right? And let's just look into this in details. So for a better selection probability, see, getting into GSoC is not like a sure sort thing, right? You need to consider the luck factor as well, and a lot of times you need to consider that what you did was probably 19 and what someone else did was 20, right? So there's a very fine line of difference there, and it might happen with you. You might not get selected, but you just want to maximize your probability. Then these are the points, right? Understand where the project needs to go. As I said, it's about where they need the project to go, not where you need to take the project, right? And a lot of time it aligns. It's not like it will always be at 90 degrees, and a lot of times it aligns, and it might be good. Anyway, you need to spend time in understanding where the project needs to go, and contribute without haste, right? Don't be in a hurry that you will contribute and you will get it merged within a day, everything will be good, right? Don't expect that, and it's not going to happen in most cases. Many a times it has happened with me that I have made issues on open source projects and I have got a response like 1 year later. That is very much possible and very fine, right? And 1 year later they gave me a response and I gave them the solution, and then they merged it another year, right? So this happens. This is very normal, right? So yeah, it won't happen in your GSoC. In your GSoC, it will be much faster because the maintainers are active at that time. But in general, in open source, this is going to happen. So don't be in a hurry at any point of time. Meet the coding guidelines, as I told you earlier. Contribute regularly. If you want to, present a strong case for your GSoC probability, then be a regular contributor. Like the GSoC application probably starts in March, mid-March or April, and make sure that you start making contributions from Jan or Feb, and you are a regular contributor, right? It's not like you contributed for a week in an organization and then you disappeared for a month. That cannot happen, right? That will actually push down your chances very badly. So you just want to make sure that every 2 or 3 days you come in, you contribute something. That's fine. If you can't do it every day, make it like every 3 days or maybe every 4 days. So that will be good. um, yeah, voice yourselves in decision making with well supported logic. A lot of times they will have some conversations in the Slack, IRC, or whatever communication channel they use, or maybe on some issues on which you are not directly contributing, but you feel that you have something to add to it, right? So whenever there's a decision making process going on, whenever there's a discussion going on, make sure whatever you add to it, and do add to it, right? It shows that you have the vision of making decisions, and that is very important. So go ahead and make your comments, make your observations, or maybe your suggestions, whatever they may be, with well supported logic, right? It should not be illogical. A lot of time people start giving random wild ideas to discussions, and that should not be, right? And then be humble, accept alternate opinions, as I said earlier, that you need to be humble and accept the opinions of people, the other people in the organization which you are working with. There might be other contributors, there might be other maintainers, there might be just some end user who has just come in to see what's going on, right? There might be other companies as well involved who are interested in that software. So a lot of people of a lot of backgrounds will be there, and everyone will have their opinions. Make sure that you are able to accept it, right? It may be wrong, it may be right, does not matter. You have to be humble. Finally, coming to the proposal part, right? What do you put in a proposal? You First of all, you have to be very clear, right? You cannot be vague in your proposal. You cannot say that I think I will complete this task in 10 days, or maybe things like I think I can do it, right? This is vague. This is not going to work. You have to be very, very clear. I can do this thing in 3 days. This is how I'll do it, right? Very simple. So be very clear about whatever you are writing in your proposal. Include a basic introduction to yourselves. It always helps, and it also helps the organization to contact you out of GSoC, right? As in, when you're making your proposal, you might want to contact them over Slack or somewhere to get their sorry, their review on your proposal, and they can only do it if you contact them externally as well, and provide them a way to contact you externally. They might have doubts sometimes on your proposal. They might want to comment and ask you that, hey, please clear this up. So you need to provide them a way to contact you, and a basic introduction helps. And mention your past similar experiences, if any, right? Whatever project or proposal you are trying to make, if you have a similar experience in the past, it need not be a formal experience, as in like working in a company or in an internship, or for a project which has a certificate. That's not needed. If you have even done like freelance work, or maybe just did it for entertainment purpose of yours when you had free time, include it in your proposal, right? Mention that this is what you built, and if you can probably provide an open source repo as well, that actually adds to it, right? So if you had similar experiences, make sure to mention them on your proposal, because that is going to make your case much stronger compared to someone who does not, right? For example, if you say that you're going to work on a say video downloader from YouTube, and if you have worked on something similar in the past, and you you put that in your proposal, and someone who has worked on it but does not mention it in the proposal, as a reviewer of the proposal, if I look at those two proposals and see that there's this guy who wants to work on this YouTube downloader, there's this guy who wants to work on a YouTube downloader, but this guy has done it in the past, right? He has once done it, then he is probably the better person for me to hire or maybe to select in my organization, because I'm very sure he can do it. पहले भी करा है, फिर से करेगा, right? So make sure you mention those similar experiences of the past, and it's always a good idea to find a project which needs something which you have already done in the past, right? So it does not always have to be the other way around. Ki you find the project and then you think, what have I done similar in the past? It does not always have to be like that. You can think that these are the things which I have done in the past. Then let me look for a project which is in line with these things, right? So it will always make your proposal more strong. And then have a realistic timeline for what you do. A very important thing in your GSoC proposal is going to be your timeline, right? So there's a 2 or 3 month timeline of GSoC, and they have it divided into multiple phases. They have it divided into multiple types of works that they will be doing during that evaluation, feedback, all that. So make sure you consider all of it in your timeline. It's not like you will just give a proposal of say like 2 months and you will just divide them into weeks, that week 1, week 2, for 2 months I'll do this. That cannot happen, right? Make sure that you also include the evaluation period, feedback period, and every other thing. Like at the end of GSoC, you'll have to write your wrap up report. So make sure you include that as well. Um, and in the very starting of GSoC, you cannot just write like from the day one I'll just jump off and start doing things. That cannot happen. There will be a community bonding period. There will be a period in which your mentors and maintainers will tell you that in your proposal I like these 10 points, but I did not like the rest 3 points, so maybe you need to change that. Or maybe they might have other requirements before they can come to your proposal. So all of these things are going to happen and it's going to take time. So make sure you accommodate all of this in your proposal. Have a very flexible timeline, and it should be very, very realistic that it can be achieved. Like if you make a proposal and in that proposal it's written that I will build a clone of Google in 1 month, then I'll straight away reject it. But if you say that you will make a search bar in a week, I'll accept it because it's realistic. It will happen, right? In a week, at least I'll have a search bar. I cannot have a Google in 1 month, right? So anyway, and back your choices with reason. So while making a proposal, it might happen that you are saying that we will introduce this library into the system, we will introduce this technology into the system, right? We will build this software using this language, using these libraries, frameworks. So wherever you are doing these things, right, these are choices. So make sure you give a very good reason why you are doing so. Now, if you tell me that, if I have a requirement for a desktop software like for Windows, and you tell me we'll be using HTML, CSS, and JS to build it and put it all in a browser web view, then like it's a bullshit solution to me, right? It should not be done. Like it's a crime. So don't do that, right? Make sure that whatever choices you are making, you're putting much logic behind it. That this is the reason why I'm choosing it. And a lot of people have been asking, can you share a proposal which you got selected? Yes. So yeah, you can go to this link. I actually had in mind that you might be asking me that. So yes, if you go to this link, you will get that exactly that proposal without any modifications. I'd request the folks at DSC NSCC to put it in the chat. Perfect. Thank you. Coming to winter of code, the final part of this conversation, before you start asking me questions. Coming to Winter of Code is a program which is organized by DSC NSCC in collaboration with a lot of other organizations, and we are kind of trying to mock the Google Summer of Code for you so that you can prepare for it in a nothing to lose environment. You just have a win-win here. So yeah, it's a good place to understand how GSoC works, how open source works in general, and this is what we are going to do mostly. Like you will attempt something, we will evaluate it for you, we will tell you where you can improve, and we will repeat this whole cycle, right? We will keep on improving all the time. Just you make your attempt, we evaluate, you improve, and we repeat. right? So this is what Winter of Code tries to do. And this is the main idea behind it, that you apply to the projects in Winter of Code and you receive feedback on your proposal, right? It's not going to happen that when you apply for projects on Winter of Code, you will be rejected. No, we are not going to do that, because Winter of Code is a program for absolute beginners and anyone who is like, interested in GSoC. So they will also get a good output out of this program. So you will receive feedback on your proposal. It might happen that the organizations for which you have made your proposal, they might not like it. They might just reject it. But we will tell you that why they rejected it. We always take complete feedback from all the organizations and we will send it back to you. We will tell you that these are the things which you lacked. You can still participate. Just make sure that you change the way you write your proposal. And yes, you will be working with some awesome mentors, and fortunately I am one of them. There are other mentors as well. I mentioned the MLH fellow, so Aniket, he will be there as well. There will be some amazing mentors, like really some amazing mentors, GDs, Intel black belt developers, you name it, like simple as that, you name it. And yep, you will be invited to be a part of the DSC NACC GSoC support group. We have this group on Telegram, which in which for the duration of like January to the date of announcement of GSoC results, as in selection results, we support people with their applications, with uh, the application requirements, whatever they might be facing problems in applying, and in creating their proposal, in making their contributions, in handling situations on GitHub. We help them through all of it. Like basically, whatever we can do for you, we will do. And yeah, so this is what we do in GSoC support. We will be having one-on-one mentoring sessions. We'll be having group mentoring sessions, and we'll be having discussions around how to deal with certain situations, things like that. A lot of stuff happens. If you go to that channel, if you see in the history of that channel's chats, then you will understand that it's literally an attempt to get you into GSoC. That's it. And yeah, we help you prepare your GSoC proposal. That's something which I mentioned already. Finally, you win swag. I think that's a complete win-win, because yeah, even though we do not pay you like GSoC does, we do send you some cool stickers and other swag if possible. We actually run on a very tight budget, but yeah, we try to send you stuff. And I think the last year we did send stuff to everyone, like anyone who participated into it. So yeah, that's it. And finally, yes, this is what we all need to do in the coming future. Whenever you want to build something good for the world, assemble people and do it, right? Now, let's take some questions. Let me see. Do we have some questions? People on here. Okay, just out of curiosity, what has been your first open source contribution and how far have you come from it? My first open source contribution. So I created my GitHub account in 2013 or 14, but I did not use it till 2016. Right. The reason being, I was very intimidated with open source and I did not have anyone to guide me. So the first time I used GitHub, I actually uploaded some of my old projects onto it. That was my first contribution to open source. If you do not want to count that as in like contributing to my own softwares, then I did contribute to a JavaScript library which was used to create presentations. I'm forgetting the name. It's very famous. I think impress.js. Yeah, so in impress.js, I went in and I told them that, hey, this is a bug and this is how you can solve it. So I gave that PR. They closed it, but later on they included that in future releases. So yeah, that is how I contributed for the first time. That was probably somewhere in 2016. What are the changes made in GSoC for this year? Honestly, I do not know. I have not gone through the GSoC announcement yet, because let's be honest, I do not have to participate in GSoC. So yeah, I did not need to see it. Do the organizations GSoC list a set of projects for the students to work on? Both of it, right? When you start looking at the organizations for GSoC, you will see that they put out something called GSoC list of ideas, right? So this list of ideas is actually what kind of proposals they are looking for, and they also allow you to form your own proposal. Almost every organization does that. So all of them will have one list of ideas, and they will be open to your ideas as well, which you might feel that you can probably like mix two ideas which they have provided. You can probably pick some parts from the ideas that they have provided, mix it together, and then present it, and they will be fine with it. Outside student can participate in Winter of Code? Definitely, yes. Anyone can participate in it. It's open to all students, and yeah, you're welcome. Will you get feedback on proposal of Winter of Code? Yes, a very detailed feedback. In fact, we will make sure that whatever proposals you are sending in, we send it to the organizations. We also send it to all the mentors, and they will be providing you with a very detailed feedback. In fact, like it might happen that there is feedback on all your lines. Even that has happened last year. Like I remember I sent some feedbacks that way. Like I literally highlighted all the lines that, hey, this is what you need to make better. Yeah, so if your proposal does not get selected in Winter of Code, we will still onboard you, and we will guide you into making a better proposal, right? It's like we understand that you are a starter, you are someone who does not have a lot of experience in open source, and that is exactly what you are trying to get from us. So we will make sure that you are onboarded to the program. We will allow you to choose the organization then, and we will let that organization know that this person is interested, does not have a very good idea of open source, so help them out in that way, right? So see, Winter of Code is just a program meant for teaching, right? Our main purpose is to make you equipped with the idea of open source. So yes, you're very welcome to apply, get rejected, and still be with us and improve. Yeah. So Ritam, if you're talking about the Google Summer of Code, then a beginner level of proficiency is fine, as long as you are making a good proposal and you are being a good open source contributor. The two slides which I showed, right? This one and this one, right? So if you are taking care of these two, then a beginner level of proficiency is very fine. You do not have to be a rocket scientist. What are the technology in GSoC that we need to work on? Soumya, if you look at the organizations, then the organizations range from medical domain to geospatial domain to probably working with basic HTML to working with the kernel level code. So all of it is there in GSoC, and whatever you are comfortable with, make sure you find something according to your choices. There are like 300 organizations in it, right? So you will find almost always you will find something which is good for you. Yeah. If you start working on a Winter of Code proposal, I'm able to do only the part of my proposed add-on. Yeah, that is fine. That is very fine, right? You make a proposal, you complete it. That's pretty good. That is actually the entire goal of making the proposal. So don't worry about that. That's pretty correct. Is it a bad idea to over explain my GSoC proposal? No, it's not a bad idea. You can even delve into pseudocode, right? It's a very good idea to go into pseudocode. A lot of proposals actually do that, and they turn out to be selected. So it's very fine to explain your GSoC proposal in as much detail as you want. You're intimidated by the level of coding I see and fail to dissect it into blocks. Any advice? Yeah. So advice for this is that When you look at the entire code repo, it's usually very huge, and it's probably going to take you weeks or months or years to understand it. So don't fall into that trap. Look at the issues that they are facing, look at the bugs, look at the features which they might be needing, and just focus on the files which you need to solve it, right? And it will probably reduce down to 3 or 4 files in most cases. They usually have beginner friendly issues, so you can look at those as well, and they usually mark it with a label beginner friendly. In GSoC they do it, and in Winter of Code we will try to do it. But to be honest, in Winter of Code most of the tasks will be beginner friendly, and sometimes they will be like medium. There won't be any too tough tasks, right? Um, how important are prior contributions for GSoC? Very important. As I told you, like if you want to get in selected into any organization in GSoC, and if the applications are in March, then you should start contributing at least by Feb. And in good cases, we ask you to start contributing by the end of December or start of January. Like last year, this is what we did with the Fox in the GSoC support channel, and some of them got success. If I'm not familiar with the entire tech stack mentioned in the organization, then does that reduce the chances of multiple solutions? Not at all. Not at all. The organization which I worked in 2019, Submitty, right? So Submitty has like 6 or 7 projects running, and in the project in which I worked, they had PHP, they had Python, they had Docker, and I don't even remember what other technologies they had, right? So I did not work in all of them. I just worked on one small part of the application, and like 3 or 4 technologies were needed for it. That was all I needed to know. I did not even needed to ever like touch the code of other parts, and they did not expect me to, right? A software is built by a collection of people of different experiences. One person is not supposed to do all of it, right? If you think about a company has all type of people, right? So you do not expect anyone to come in and start doing all of it. People suggest applying to small organizations, competition is less. What's your take on this? This is correct, right? This is statistically correct, and a good idea, in fact. But like it's totally up to you, like which project you sync with more. Apply to that. And I have seen people who have applied to large organizations and got selected just because they loved that project and they were able to contribute to it like a pro, right? So wherever you are able to find more comfort, apply. You will probably get selected, right? This particular strategy of applying to small organizations is usually followed by people who just want to do GSoC for the name of it, and just they come in and do GSoC, get it on their profile, and never come back to that organization. So this is a strategy followed by them mostly. So I don't entirely suggest it. It's possible, yes. It's good, yes, but I do not entirely advocate it. For GSoC, where should I start contributing? Vijay, for GSoC, right now you cannot, or maybe you should not start contributing, because anyway, you are not sure which organizations are going to be selected, which are not. And even the organizations at this time particularly are very lazy, right? GSoC has just ended, to be honest. Like it probably got ended in September, mid-September something. So they have just got their break, and you should probably start contributing by end of December or start of January. That is when they start warming up, and the mentors start freeing up the time in their schedules. So yeah, that is when you should start contributing. And where you should start contributing is mostly look at the organizations which are regularly participating in GSoC, because they have the maximum chances of making it again to the next year, and start contributing in those repositories, in those projects. It might happen that which repository you are working on, or the project that you are working on, organization you are working on, it might not get selected. It did happen with a lot of people last year who were with us. In fact, it happened with me as well. Like I started contributing to a particular organization in 2018's November, right? I started contributing in November 2018, and when the organization list came out, that organization did not get selected, right? So this might happen. So make sure wherever you are contributing, you know that they have a good chance of getting into the list of organizations for the next year. And once you can also start once the organizations have been announced, that's fine as well. But yes, the competition by then has increased. Thanks, Utam. That's great. Thanks. Yeah. So while analyzing any project to contribute, what aspects you should keep in mind? Keep in mind the technology that they are using, whether it matches with you. Keep in mind the level of expertise that you need in any particular language or technology to contribute in that project, and also about how communicative the mentors are. Like if you are creating an issue, or maybe making some comment in their uh, like chat channels, then whether they are responding or not. If they are very unresponsive, then you probably do not want to be there, because it's probably going to be very hard for you to get any sort of attention from the mentors there, because they are unresponsive. Yeah, I think there's a limit of 2 or 3 proposals. In my time, I think it was 3 proposals. Um, I'm not sure about what limit we might have this time, but you should keep in mind that having one proposal, one good proposal is enough. You do not have to do multiple. Some people do multiple, and they usually do up to two, right? They do not do more than two, because it's really not possible for a human to be very active contributor in more than 2 or 3 repositories in one go, right? So yeah, a lot of people just do up to two. Maximum people do one.
Thank you so much, Anubhav, for being with us over here. We have a lot of questions which are kind of the repeat. So I would love to say that you could watch the session once again, or maybe go back to the slides, and all important links will be provided in the video description, so you can come back at it and get it going. Thank you so much once again. And as you said in your session, you'll definitely be a member for Winter of Code, and we are looking forward to having one whole month of open source fiesta with you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Rajita. And yeah, there are some questions out here. Uh, Mail them to me, put them to me on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want. I'll make sure I answer them. I'm usually more active on Facebook. Uh, yeah, so you can put me stuff there, or else on Twitter, or whatever is comfortable for you. Just Google me. Uh, that's it. Thank you.